Good morning, everybody. Natalie coming to you live. Coffee, spirit, water. Let's take a drink. Cheers for those. Well, let's invite people today. I didn't invite people yesterday, but today I think I'm going to invite people just because I think it's kind. Okay. I'm just inviting some people in here, so I hope y'all can join me on this beautiful, bright morning. Okay. Well, I invited people, but I don't see people jumping on here. If you're on here, just give me a thumbs up, give me some love, give me some kind of idea that you're at least listening. Okay, so let's get started. So cheers. Good morning. Beautiful coffee. Okay. By the way, my coffee, if Stanley's watching, I'm trying to make it healthier by not putting cream. Fat-free creamer. So now it's just stevia. So I'm trying to, and then maybe I'll wing myself off of coffee. And then I can really come to a place in my body where I'm putting nothing but magnificent things in it. Anyway, okay. So I want to get started. Back to the book. Because I was reading on this book, you guys, just when you could, come on, tell you this losses of mind. Okay, just when you couldn't think that it'd get better, it got better. It's like this book is like my soul on paper. I don't understand all the things that I've wanted to communicate, articulate, have been written in this book. So I gotta say it's one of my favorite books called The Christ Blueprint and 13 Keys to Christ Consciousness. And it's just an amazing, amazing book. So please go out and get it if you guys are not. Otherwise, I'm just going to read parts of it. I'm definitely not going to read the whole book because, this is not a voiceover. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read some stuff from the book and then talk about my interpretation. Make sure you're staying hydrated if you're drinking coffee. Okay, I'm going to put this this phone up here, like such. Okay, and then I'm going to start to read. Because what this is talking about is the holy law, the divine plan that's in place, right? So this is really cool because you know that Moses was given laws, right? But it was a holy law. And so I'm not an expert in the Bible. I did read the Bible when I was younger. But when we talk about holy law, what are we talking about? Well, there's different types of law, as you guys know. And it's the law that we live by we're governed by people. But when you talk about holy law, that's something totally different, right? That's something that's outside of what we can comprehend or understand. And natural law is the highest form of law. So I'll just start with that, right? So we have nature, right? The law, the principles of law, right? And so in nature. And so what we're talking about here is the holy law, not law that man created, but just law that was a divine law, right? So I'm just going to read. It says, holy law is the divine plan. Everything in creation and evolution happens to a design. And this design or code involves steps and transformations. It is in the blueprint of what a human being, our planet, and our universe is meant to be in its wholeness. The divine plan functions in order to lead all of us into our freedom, which is when man realizes he is made in the image of God. Okay. And so you've heard this over and over and over again, right? That we were made in the image of God. So you are God and God is within you. And I talk about, so people go to church and that's a beautiful thing. I'm going to say something though. Your temple, your church is your vessel, your body. So this is a message that I wanted to give, is that your body is your church. We take our church with us everywhere we go. It's our vessel. Like, this is our birthright. This was given to us. And so we get to take care of our vessel, our body, right? And I say that because it's so important, right? It's, you could go to church and pray, but if you're putting things in your body that are not serving you, then you're messing with your holy temple. You're messing with your church. And so we take our church with us everywhere we go. And again, it's a reminder that we were made in the image of God. And that there's this whole divine plan that we don't have control over, right? And so surrender plays a big role in this, okay? This law has its own intelligence, directions, and way of progressing. We do not need to interfere with it, merely follow it. Okay, so oftentimes a lot of the issues that we see in our life is because we're going against the grain, right? Like the salmon swim upstream, we do that sometimes. And is there anything wrong with it? No. Hey, Daniel. Hey, Amelia. I see some people getting on here. That the salmon, they swim right upstream, and they make it harder. And so we as people tend to swim upstream with our issues instead of allowing the divine plan to unfold. And here's the key. The word that you're looking for: patience. Patience. That's a hard one. I'm the kind of person who wants things done now. And I've learned that I have to be patient and just breathe and just wait. And it's okay. When you're working with the state, they don't move so fast. So anywho, again, don't interfere with it. Okay, so this natural law, right? We're talking about natural law of the ages is how the universe is ceaselessly unfolding and expanding, just as the soul is ceaselessly unfolding. This law, this intelligence, is self-generating, in that it is always creating itself. So so energy you can't create nor destroy, right? But it transforms into something new, something different, and so and it redesigns itself, recreates itself in different ways. It is not fixed, it's immutable, but it's constantly and spontaneously revealing in each moment. Everything is the divine plan, no matter what we may think or feel or what we choose. So even if we're choosing something, there's a plan. And also what happens is when we try to say this is our plan and we think that we have control over it, we will go through the grind. We will get put in the grind. We will get crushed up until we surrender and say, okay, I get it. This is, and you just surrender. And so that's the hardest piece. But once you're able to surrender and allow the divine plan to unfold for you, you will see the gifts that show up in your life. Okay. And that's so cool because like my dad used to always say, when you're blessed, right? When God puts his hand on you and blesses you, it's abundantly. It's not just small. It's huge, right? You get these huge blessings that come when God blesses you. And that's part of the surrender, trusting the process, knowing that you will be taken care of, okay? There's in spiritual alchemy, there's something called the Fool card. And the Fool card is 0. It's the beginning of the spiritual alchemy journey. And what it does is you have this young gentleman and he's just walking off the cliff. He has no care in the world, but he trusts that once he walks off, and I've talked about this before, that there's going to be a hand to catch him, to support him through the journey. Okay, so part of that is surrendering, and it's not the easiest task. Because we do want to feel like we can control everything, but you have a divine purpose, you have a divine will, and in your divine will be played out if you surrender and have gratitude and know and trust that your plan is just a divine journey for you, okay? So let's continue. Everything is divine plan, no matter what we may think, feel, or choose. This plan is a pattern of creation, okay? To live in the holy law, to live in our fullest potential and truth, our true body, okay? This true body is a garment of light, the body of light, the body that is eternal and never dies. Okay? That spans all time and places, that enables us to live the miracle and live in our fullness. Okay? So when you surrender, now this is the piece where we talk about like dualities, right? And we're in an age where this new paradigm shift is happening, where we're bridging the dualities. And I actually got an article from, and I know Bree talks about this a lot. Whenever you're on here, Bree, just go ahead and I don't know, cancel. Oh, if you're ever on here, Bree, chime in. But there's children who are not identifying with gender. And I typically don't go into this, right? Because I talk about the feminine and masculine. The reason I do the feminine and masculine is because we have to understand the distinction in order to alchemize it into one whole thing, right? So I'm going to talk about it regardless. However, there are children who are starting to recognize that there is no such thing as duality, that we do live truly, we are whole, perfect, and complete. And that's living in our light body. Now, the brave souls who are doing this right now, those young kids who are starting to step in and say that they're gender neutral, they're getting a lot of ridicule. And that's what happens because the ego's going to fight, right? The ego will fight to maintain the duality. The ego will fight to create the illusion, to keep the illusion alive. But the spirit will fight through because the spirit will always win, right? The spirit's going to win. Once we are able to accept that, then we can transition into light beings and move through our divine plan. So we have to just let go, right? And so, that means loving everyone. And it means loving the ones that you feel maybe you're afraid of. Maybe you don't understand. If there is somebody in your life that's gender neutral and maybe that's not what you were raised with, maybe have some compassion and love for them and recognize them. They're the most ridiculed right now, most ostracized people. And do they need to be? No, they're beautiful. They're actually were revered at one point because why? Because they were able to accept the masculine and feminine within them, which is a beautiful thing. And we should all be striving for that. There's nothing more important than having a man or a woman in the world who's able to step into either of the energies and fuse them together and understand how they work together and know that they are, again, the image of God, the image of Creator, the image of the pattern, whatever it is you guys call it, because I know there's different religions and I believe they're all part of the same whole, right? Again. And so, again, when we talk about bridging the dualities, that's what we're talking about, just allowing the divine plan to come through. So fusing the masculine and feminine principle together to create wholeness, right? And once we do that, again, we're able to identify with this new age of human being that's come out, right? Like where we have these people who don't identify with either their genders. They don't say they're man or woman. They believe that they're both, and they are, and we are. All of us are, right? We have it all within us. If you look at the anatomy of a man and a woman, physically, yes, men tend to be stronger than women. And I don't know why we chose as humans to split apart so that we could come together to create, because there are animals who don't. They're asexual. They can just create bacteria, right? It just creates on its own. And there's other animals in the animal kingdom that do that. But we separated. And for what purpose, I don't know. So that we can remind ourselves that we're whole again? I'm not sure. However, if we look at the anatomy of a man and a woman, well, let's just say that the man's stuff is like the woman's stuff on the outside. That's the most appropriate way that I can say that on here. So there you go. So we are the same. They're like the only difference is something falls out, and in the other case, if you're a woman, it stays in. So there you go. And we have a uterus, and the man has his testicles and all that stuff. Okay, so there you go. But it's the same thing. It's just it just looks different, right? And then they come together, so they create something new. But again, within us internally, we have the same energies. So I hope Bree watches this because I don't know. For me, it was I want to honor the remarks and let you know that yeah, I was talking about duality, but the reality is because most people are still stuck in the duality. In fact, I still am because I'm learning to fuse the two just right now, and I'm trying to teach you guys how to do that. And sometimes Facebook Live isn't the best platform, but I know people are on Facebook, and so here's where I will share this information. So I highly encourage that you guys stay on this, just so you don't miss anything that might be important for you. But I trust that the message that you're getting at the time you do tune in is exactly what you need for your life, right? Okay, good. So let's keep going. Let's see if we can, codes of light. Okay, the body of light is part of us that lives beyond the body-mind, that incarnates our soul from lifetime to lifetime. It is our formless stubble. The similitude of ourselves created out of pure eternal light. The work of the body, the light, culminates in our eventually becoming enlightened when the body of light descends and merges with our physical body. So we are light, okay? So the light comes into our physical body, okay? This merging happens through the vehicle of the body of light, the meeting point that allows body, soul, and spirit to merge. This face of God, I am, stretches all the way back to the creation of the universe and into the line of many Christs that also stretches into the infinite future. Okay, Moses grounded all these timelines into the now, utilizing all dimensions and codes within the body of light to consciously ground the whole lineage. Okay, so now what it's going to go into is the codes of light, you guys. Now here's cool codes, right? Codes and mystery and ooh, what is this? Okay. Codes hidden in the Hebrew scriptures such as Azora, Sefer, and I can't say these words, Yezura, as well as the Christed body of the light itself. These codes of sacred language are accessible through the science of Gematria, and I don't know this word, Gematria. There you go. Thank you, Danny. Thank you for chiming in here. Rearranging letters, words, and their numbers, values into patterns that reveal the source of creation and how creation itself forms and dissolves. These patterns hold the basis for transmutation, which I'm always talking about, right? Taking the formless and putting it into form. Transmuting. Taking that what is formless and putting it into form. Okay. These patterns hold the basis for transmutation of the formless into form, and changing of the elements such as fire into water. So, you guys, this is the cool part. This is like the code. If you're on here, yes, I don't know how to say that word. Gematria. Okay, I don't know if I'm saying it right. But that's the cool part, is that we take the formless and we create something. And that's why we are creators. That's why we were made in the image of God, because God is a creator. Well, in our story, God is a creator. In the story of Christianity, there's other paradigms and worldviews and whatnot. However, I always say, well, they're all good, right? The paradigms. But I'm saying, which one is going to support us in our progression, right? Back to the light, back to home, back to wherever we're headed, right? So the cool thing is, though, that in the creation story, in that worldview, in that paradigm, when you're talking about spiritual alchemy, is that you're able to then create in the physical world, which is really cool, right? So we talk about words, we talk about syllables and vibrations. Like, how do you understand what I'm telling you? It was created years ago, right? In the codes. So language, right? Also like chemistry and changing different things. Like, what's always intrigued me, gematria. Okay, gematria. What's cool about this is, wait, I lost my train of thought. See, Danny? So I don't know what happened. Okay, but anyway, we're talking about language and creating words and vibrations and frequencies to be able to articulate or communicate what it is. That's what I was going to say about, I've always been very intrigued. So they say Jesus Christ, right, was a carpenter. And as a child, I was very intrigued by carpentry. And why? And it was always because it was like a puzzle, right? It was like taking this thing, and it wasn't formless, it was formed. But you were taking it and reshaping it into something that was really like cool. And so I would, as a child, would watch these, I was a weird kid. I didn't really like cartoons, but I loved to watch the channels where they were like crafting things, and I wanted to actually do that, be a carpenter at one point in my life. But we didn't have carpenters in my family, but I did take a class. And the cool thing about it is that you're creating something, from this other thing. So you transform it into something beautiful, or something you can use. And so now for the formless into form, when we talk about that, we're talking about vibrations like music, right? Right, Danny? I don't know if you're still on here, Danny, but we talk about the different patterns that can be created. Music is one because it's vibrational, right? And what did you say? It's about time. Yes, I know. I used to play an instrument, and I love to sing. So there's that piece. And then we have language where we communicate, which is vibrational, right? Like we need vocal cords in order to communicate. And then we write it down. And so we're taking that, which is formless, into a form so that we can communicate. Now, here's the cool part. What happens when we start to create language? We start to develop ideas, perspectives, and then we use those ideas and perspectives to generate and create things, right? Like a lighter. Okay? Like this is cool, right? Like we were able to invent this. Why? Because we created words. And then out of those words, we had an idea. And out of those ideas and patterns, we created something like this. So the formless became form. I mean, that's cool stuff, you guys. That's pretty cool. So I would just say, again, the divine law, the holy law, it's not up to us. Surrender to it. And allow yourself to, so the way that I do it in practice, because people are like, well, how do you do that? What does that mean? In practice is I meditate and I don't make up. Whatever comes up, right? I don't make it up. So meditation is really good, and that's key. I do that every night. I'm meditating with a dear friend of mine, Lisa, before we go to bed. And so I do that. So that's one. Another thing is I allow myself to like close my eyes, and it's not really a meditation, but really trying to feel where am I experiencing things in my body. So sometimes when there's uncomfortable vibrations that come up, like sadness and all that stuff, I allow it and I embrace it and I accept it. And I don't try to change it into something different. I just let it exist. And then as it exists, it'll start to shift and change. And so that's the power, right? And that's the surrender. That's the part where you say, okay, I'm experiencing this in this moment, and that's okay. Okay? So it's a moment by moment basis. Okay? So you guys go out and do those things. Okay? I gotta fix my hair. Okay. Anywho's, I love you guys. I mean it. Let's do another. If you have your coffee, get your coffee. Drink your water. Stay hydrated. Mm-hmm. And I think my roommate's up. He gets to listen to me every day. I drive him crazy. Okay. Anywho's, thanks, Danny, for the support and the books that you gave me. I appreciate it. Super excited to start reading those. And you guys go out and just be your magnificent self. You guys have so many gifts to offer the world. A dear friend of mine starting to write poetry again. I don't know if he stopped, but I was like, dude, write, you're good. So that's cool. And so whatever gifts you guys share them, tell me about them. I want to hear about them. Okay, so I love you guys. Mean it. Have a fabulous day.